being an Xbox fan, I think we can all agree that when it comes to JRPGs, there's not really a whole lot you can work with. We don't get stuff like Final Fantasy. We have been getting Dragon Quest and stuff to Game Pass, but I think that's probably being pushed to the other side. There's no reason for me to think that Dragon Quest 12 is going to be on Xbox anytime soon, or even at launch for that matter. But there might be some shining at the end of the tunnel. There might be some light in this, guys. We actually have some reports. Now, keep in mind when it comes to stuff like this, we don't know what's going on. And to a point, I don't think some of these other people know what's going on. But we're going to talk about rumors here because I think this is a pretty relevant matter going into the thing. Now, you guys know that I've always said Microsoft needs to work on their own studios, that they're not going to contract people to make JRPGs for themselves. It looks like that actually might be happening. There is a podcast. It's a Spanish insider. He runs a podcast. I'll put it in the description below. Clearly, I don't speak Spanish. So that's why we're not going to even know what he really says to this degree. I'm just going to go what I've been seeing on Twitter. Now, it's pure speculation at this point. You know, it's the reason I'm making this video is because I feel like with all of the things I have been saying, I need to talk about this. I need to cover this. So let's go over here to this website. So as you can see, let me make this F11. As you can see, if I once I full screen it, here is the podcast that I'm referring to. Apparently, he comes out and he says, according to a Spanish Xbox insider, Tango Gameworks is working on a JRPG and another project that will be based on a new IP. So let's first talk about, Tango Game Studios in general. They made Hi-Fi Rush, the game that just recently came out. They've also made The Evil Withins. People really thought that they would be probably going back. We would see a Hi-Fi Rush 2 sequel, but we kind of figured they'd be going back to their bread and butter, which is those type of JRPGs. And if you look at this perspective, it doesn't look that way. Now, we don't know if they have multiple teams over there. They could have 3 or 4 teams. We don't know if they've really, hired way more talent over there than they initially had. I don't even know how many people's over there now. But what I think is interesting is that the Tango Studios are working on a JRPG. Now, I think it could be a variety of things. Final Fantasy style JRPG. It could be something like Devil May Cry. There's a lot of different, veins that they can go into when it comes to JRPG. But I think this is extremely important because it shows that Microsoft is listening. And I think that's when you look at the JRPG, they've been listening to that in particular. They can't really do a whole lot when it comes to Square Enix, and I think that's the biggest issue. Square Enix holds such a monopoly in some of the bigger, JRPGs such as Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest. They made that Forspoken game, even though that game didn't really, move too many mountains. I would say that people still really enjoyed it. And I think what's the important thing here is we're seeing progression. I'm 100% with you guys. It should not take Microsoft this long to really captivate and, move in the direction that they needed to go. They spent pretty much an entire generation, kind of kicking the ball, but they didn't really do a whole lot. And I would say that towards the end of last generation and this generation with the Xbox Series S and X, they've had a lot more progression when it comes to JRPGs. We've had the Persona games come over, Dragon Quest come over, the Yakuza games come over. We've seen a lot of Sega come over in particular, and we've seen the majority of the old style Final Fantasies come over. Now, I know something along that line was moved because now we're not getting no current Final Fantasies, but I still have to give them credit for getting stuff like Final Fantasy X, 8, 7. Well, yeah, 7. The original 7. Sure, we don't get the remake, but you see progression. Up until the majority of the Xbox One generation, you didn't see none of these games. And I think I got to give them props to that. But I've always said the biggest way that they're going to improve in this area is with natural grown JRPGs that is only on their platform, even if it's a timed exclusive, because the right timed exclusive matters. And it looks like that they're going to have Tango Gameworks make it. I used to be against studios making stuff that wasn't what I liked them for. I really liked Hi-Fi Rush. The Evil Within was good, But after seeing Hi-Fi Rush, after seeing, Deathloop to a certain degree, I'm a little bit more open-minded when it comes to making newer stuff. I think that these developers are extremely talented. Most of them have worked on a variety of different titles, so they can definitely make stuff that they wouldn't normally make. I hope this works out good. And when it comes to the new IP, I think that's probably where their horror elements coming in. That team that made the Evil Within, they're probably making something new. And then maybe the second team, or even perhaps a third team, they're working on a JRPG. It would be cool if it was something like Hi-Fi Rush related, like that type of graphic style, maybe even the characters themselves. Because I think with that type of infrastructure and the way Hi-Fi Rush looks, you can actually really make a very captivating game in the JRPG market. But I'm kind of curious to hear you guys' opinion. You guys have heard me multiple times come on this channel and say Microsoft's not doing enough, and I still think they have a long way to go. But having leaks come out like this that they're making a JRPG, I think that's going to work really well for them, especially if it's good, because right now you don't have a whole lot of people excited for JRPGs on the Xbox platform because rightfully so, we're not getting the majority of the good ones. And I think if you start, really growing them in your own studios, after maybe a generation, people will be more open to these. I've gave them plenty of plot props because they have put these games such as Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest. They put a lot of these in Game Pass day and date when they came to the platform. So that would, hopefully if one of these sequels come out, maybe eventually we'll get 16 and eventually we'll get Final Fantasy 7 remake and maybe even Dragon Quest 12. People did play these in Game Pass, so it would lead to more sales, hopefully. But this is a good step in the right direction. If this is true, keep in mind, all of this is with a giant grain of salt. But 9 times out of 10, I would say this makes sense. Tango Studios makes sense to make a JRPG. But, put in the comment section below what you guys feel. I'm very curious to hear your guys' opinion. And until next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.